Welcome to the Fly Fishing Insider Podcast, where each week we speak with brands, icons, innovators, and trailblazers within the fly fishing industry, exploring both the successes and failures they've encountered along the way to become who they are today. But first, if you have not yet subscribed to the podcast or joined our email list, please do so by going to the flyfisherinsiderpodcast.com, or you can also find us on Instagram at flyfisherinsiderpodcast. Now let's begin. Welcome to the Fly Fishing Insider Podcast. Today our guest is Tim Romano. Tim is the managing editor for Angling Trade Magazine. Tim is also a well-accomplished fly fishing media content creator who often contributes to various fly fishing magazines and publications. Tim's other ventures include photography, in which Tim is just as passionate about as fly fishing. Here today to tell us more is Tim Romano. Tim, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Greg.
Yeah, no problem. Super excited. We finally made this connect and happen, which is a good thing. Jump right into it. A big picture of who is Tim Romano.
That's a good question.
That's why I asked it.
Well, I don't know if I have a concise answer for you, but in regards to the industry, it's something I kind of fell into 12 to 15 years ago, working for a publication, started angling trade with another partner named Kirk Deeter, and have kind of just worked really hard on the photo side of things and the business publication side of things. And yeah, I'm still here doing it almost 15 years later. So got 2 girls, wife, live in Boulder, Colorado, and try to get out as much as I can, but work pretty hard too.
So when you say you work pretty hard, I mean, I don't think the listeners actually get an idea of how hard you work. So I've been trying to nail you down, and our wires have crossed quite a bit here, just with life and whatnot. Give us a glimpse just really quickly before I jump into some other stuff. Like, what's your travel work schedule like? It seems like you're always on the go.
Yeah, if I could tell you my travel schedule, my wife would be very happy with you. It's funny because sometimes most of the stuff I do is planned well in advance, which is nice. I plan some stuff, shoots a year in advance, but a lot of times, as people know, if they're in the industry or the creative industry, things happen quickly. Like, hey, we need you somewhere next week for 4 days, and it's tough to say no as a freelancer. You don't ever want to turn down work, so it kind of comes in waves. I'll be gone for 3 weeks, and then I'll be home for a month, or I'll be gone for 2 days and then home for a couple weeks. It just really depends. It's tough to nail down. I wish I knew, but I don't have a schedule I can even keep track of.
I want to jump into the photography, but I'm going to do that later. I do want to talk right now about Angling Trade Magazine. So what is your role at Angling Trade Magazine? You said you started it with another partner. Tell us a bit about how that all evolved as well.
I'll be as concise as I can, but years ago, over a decade ago, I worked for a publication called Wild on the Fly, and it was a pretty niche travel print publication. We ended up starting basically a trade publication for the industry that was called Fly Fishing Trade, and I kind of ran it with, I had a boss, but I kind of helped him run the magazine. The long and short of it is I left with our editor, Kirk Deeter. We are partners in the venture, and I guess his title is editor. I'm the managing editor, so I kind of put the whole thing together, do sales, administrative, keep the day-to-day things going, and he more or less works on content with the writers. Yeah, we basically started it 2007, so we're 40 issues in, print issues, and we do bi-weekly e-newsletters for the industry, and we basically talk to the business side of things on the fly fishing.
Well, that's what I was going to get more into, and this is why I'm heavily attracted to this, because it's kind of like my podcast as well, right? We talk about the businesses. But for those that don't know, can you give us a glimpse at who the magazine actually benefits or who it's geared towards?
Yeah, I mean, we talk to everyone for the most part, whether that's you're a guide, a gear distributor, a lodge, a travel company. And then our main audience when we started this was fly shops, which it still is, but there's less and less of those, as I'm sure most of you know. But yeah, we really kind of spread the info around to everyone in the industry. We talk to manufacturers, trade organizations. We kind of just get all the information out there on the business side of stuff, whether there's job openings, regulation changes, things like that. I mean, it's all over the place. It's funny though, because you talk to someone, they're like, oh, you own a fishing magazine. And I'm like, not quite. They're always a little disappointed.
Yeah, I bet you get that a lot actually, but it's like, no.
Yeah.
But more focused and niche. So what are some of the articles based on that you guys are writing? And I know I've read the magazine and I follow it as well and get the e-letters every 2 weeks, but I know you do a lot of like reviews and product reviews. And we've talked about that, me and you before. Walk us through that. Like, is it as if I'm a new brand, if I'm Patagonia, do I come up to you and say, hey, Tim, can you do a new review on my new boot?
Yeah, I mean, we get it from both. We get it from people like Patagonia. I mean, we're always, in terms of gear stuff, we're just trying to help people understand what's good and bad. And while we like to think, of ourselves as pseudo experts, I don't always think that's necessarily the best indication of a good piece of gear. I don't know that because I say so, it's necessarily good. We do a lot of stuff ourselves. And then we kind of field things through a group of testers. We have a relationship with Trout Unlimited here. And, we have testers that are everyday people, lawyers, really all walks of life that kind of review stuff. Yeah, that might not have the insight that we have, but we try to add our experience, know-how to it. So whether it's a huge company like Patagonia, who is an advertiser, or someone who's just new, small, if it's interesting and seems cool, we'll look at it and give it a whirl. They don't have to be advertisers.
So the companies just contact you and say, hey, Tim, I got this product. I want to see if you guys will test it, or is there a process to go through that?
I mean, not really. There's not a formal process like it's not like you're submitting something for to write for
an
us.
article. That's kind of where I was going with that. Okay.
No, it's just, hey, do you want to take a look at this? Yeah, sure, send it over, we'll take a look.
Cool. Love it. Easy. Love it. That's good. All right, Tim, let's talk about the writers. If I'm a writer and I have an article or an idea, or I'm a blogger, we won't want to use a content creator.
Sure.
How do I submit an article to Angling Trade Magazine, and what type of articles are you looking for? Walk us through that whole process.
Yeah, I think that, you have a good point. A lot of people, I don't even really think they understand what we are, what we do. So the first thing I would say is realize what we do. We're not a fishing magazine. We are talking to other businesses. So your content or whatever you want to write about has to relate industry-wise to fly fishing. I don't want to see something about your trip to New Zealand. Like, I'm not interested in that. And it's funny, we still get a lot of people that send us stuff like that.
I'm sure it happens every day.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm like, did you look at our magazine? Do you understand what we do? Please don't waste my time anymore. There is no real formal process. Like, I know a lot of places have submission processes and outlines. I mean, again, we're pretty laid back. We're small. Just, a query of sorts. Hey, I got this idea. Here's what I'm thinking. Would you guys be interested? And then we kind of take it from there.
I love it. Hey, I want to shift here. So the magazine's been around for quite some time. And I know, again, we talked about this. You guys have been at I don't want to say all the trade shows, but you've been to quite a few trade shows, and it's always trade show season, it seems like, for you. What is the presence, and what are some of the trends that you're sensing in the industry from a magazine point of view, with the online world as well, like going on here? Like, what are you guys sensing, or what can you tell us about?
Well, so your question's kind of broad. I mean, there's a lot of things. Are you asking trends within the industry business wise, or?
You bet. Industry trends business wise, you bet.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think like the rest of the world, brick and mortar stores, it's becoming harder and harder to make a living in that kind of retail space.
It's exactly where I was going with this question.
That said, I'm biased, but there's things I just will not buy unless I can play with them or touch it. And I think there's a lot of fishing stuff like that, which is great. I mean, I'm an optimist on the fly shop side. I grew up with fly shops. I love fly shops. I love spending time in them. It's a fun place, but it's getting harder and harder to do that. I think to be successful, you have to leverage both the online world and understand that world and the SEO world and how to sell things there, and do a really slamming job with customer service in your brick and mortar. I don't know if that's answering your question. Yeah. There's obviously a million different things we can expound on there. But.
Well, where I'm going with it is, it is a trend. A lot of it's going online, and it's directed towards online. And what do you find the manufacturers of the brands you guys that are advertising, are they gearing more towards online? Like, where's that common thread?
Yeah, I think for a long time, everyone was worried on our side of things. Retailers were worried about direct sales and manufacturers selling directly. And that was just, to me, it was
Hmm.
inevitable, like that was going to happen. But at the same time, these companies realize where their bread and butter has been for a long time. And I think they try to play it both ways, directing traffic to brick and mortar stores while still selling online. I think it's a tenuous dance.
Yeah.
Some of them are doing it well, some aren't. It's a good question. I think it's all playing out right now, and we'll kind of see where it ends up.
Because it's exactly, that is my thoughts exactly. It's playing out right now. And I like to say I'm in the industry, or I think I'm in the industry slightly by interviewing the brands, but I just don't know how it's going to play out. You know what I mean, Tim? Like, I'm just like, where's it going? Like, yeah, I'm a little on the fence as well. And I'm sitting back on the sidelines watching and seeing how it's playing out. So with that said, I want to ask you, with the magazine and focusing on the magazine here, what are some of the goals of the magazine going forward?
Well, I mean, our mission has always been to kind of make sure that the industry has a voice, and we're kind of trying to unify people. As I'm sure
Mhm.
it's a small industry, and there's a lot of competition, and there's a lot of ego. We just want the industry to grow. We want people to be happy, to make money, to do it smartly, and we hope to continue doing that. I think that some of it's going to be contingent on, for us, bridging the
Yeah.
gear consumer gap, if that makes sense. Kind of talking a little bit more to consumers from a trade point of view, kind of into consumer reports style, feedback and reporting on gear. So I think we just need to keep doing what we're doing, but kind of evolve a little bit. It's the print world's tough. It doesn't really work like that anymore. You don't wait. We always
Hmm.
printed quarterly, and which was small to begin with, and now we're only down to 2 magazines a year. But we do talk to people every 2 weeks online and every day on the website. So I think it's just to keep doing what we're doing and keep it real and keep quality journalism going.
Quality journalism going. I love it. When we talk about online, Tim, where else? What other platforms are you guys on? Are you guys on social media? Are you promoting there?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
are. And it's we were hesitant for a while because, as the fly fishing world is, I'd say for the most part, they're pretty tuned in to the digital side of stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there's a lot of people that talk and do things online and social media. So I was hesitant for a long time to put anything industry related online, only because I didn't want to deal with people, basically the average consumer,
Hmm.
getting in our knickers in business conversations. I think I've changed my mind a little on that. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and I don't get into the echo chamber, and I don't respond to people. I don't comment. We're just pushing out the news. You can do with it what you want.
So you're like myself, take a neutral stance, right? And that's kind of how
It's
I,
just I'm
yeah,
not here to
yeah,
tell you what to think.
engage. Yeah, I hear you. And let's talk about that. So when you write your reviews, they're an unpaid review. I know that because you've told me that, and you're not here to tell what you think. What has the general consensus be? Like, I mean, I like your reviews. I follow your reviews. I find them knowledgeable. What are the other anglers within the industry saying?
I mean, I haven't heard very much negative stuff. I hear positive stuff. It's, as you would imagine, it's a fine line.
Hmm.
We've taken the stance that if someone comes to us with a product and we don't like it, I'm not gonna pan it, because I just won't report on it. I mean, we'll give pros and cons to things, but I'm not just gonna
Hmm.
rip someone a new one who sent me a product that I don't like, because I just don't think that's helpful for, maybe they're new,
For
maybe,
anyone? Yeah, yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah.
and it's
Maybe it's early in their business. I
yeah, and
get it.
I'll be
You know.
honest, man. It's a small
Yeah,
industry. It's hard
yeah.
for a lot of people to make money,
Mhm.
and any real money. So we feel like we're very honest, but we're also very careful in how we go about things.
No, that's cool. That's why I asked the question, because I wanted to make sure that we can point that out.
Sure.
So for sure, Tim, I know you're doing the magazine. You're traveling all around, and in your travels, you're doing photos. Tell us about the photos. What's going on there? You have a huge passion for it.
Yeah, I mean, photography is initially how I got into this crazy industry. I ended up knocking on this guy's door who ran this magazine here in Boulder like 15 years ago called Wild on the Fly. I was, out of school for a couple of years, out of college. I have a fine arts degree, which is funny, but I'm actually still using it. Knocked on his door and said, "Hey, would you be interested in this trip I'm taking with my buddy? We're living in a van down by the river."
Love
in
it.
New Zealand for 3 months. This was back in 2002, and took a Hasselblad two and a quarter format camera. Spent 3 months down there, shot it, came back. He bought the piece, and then ended up hiring me. So while I never really thought I'd be shooting the outdoor world, like that wasn't my goal, it
Hmm.
just kind of ended up being like that. It's tough. The competition in the photo world's very hard. There's a lot of really talented people, so you can't just be a hack. You got to be good at what you do, and then beyond that, it's tough. There's so many
Hmm.
good people. So luckily, I've just worked really hard at it and knocked on doors. And then I think what's really helped me is having the industry connections and having these relationships for decade plus, time to basically work into commercial stuff with some of these folks. And then it's like anything else. Relationships build and you meet other people. And I think that having the trade magazine has really helped me on the photo side.
Absolutely. I definitely direct correlation between the two. All right. So I want to jump back to the beginning. You're living in a van down by the river in New Zealand. You approach the guy. I want to make sure that, listeners that are out there thinking, hey, I'm just going to go buy a van and live down by the river and take photos. You said it right there. You got to have quality photos. Now, you had the photos like pre-set up, or you had it pre-set up prior to going? Like, was that all?
He basically said, "I don't know. I'll talk to me when you get back."
Okay.
like any good editor should do. He
Yeah.
didn't know
Yeah.
me. He
Yeah.
had no idea. I said, "Okay." My buddy and I had saved up for a couple of years, and I was just waiting tables, still shooting, doing. I was just learning the business,
Yeah.
and we just went and had a good time. And I shot from the heart and shot what I wanted to shoot, and brought back a story to him, and he liked it. So yeah, it wasn't a preconceived,
Okay.
here you got to do this. It was just, talk to me when you get back.
I like it. It's casual for sure. Tim, do you find like the photo market in the fly fishing world, do you find that it's like flooded, or do you find that it's not flooded? Do you find that there's more quality or more crap? Or do you find that it's an equal playing field all around?
Mm, that's tough.
Loaded question, I know.
I'll be honest,
Yeah,
man.
that's what I want.
It's gotten a lot better. I don't know if I told you this, but I helped the guys over at the Fly Fish Journal start that magazine, and I photo edited it for 3.5, 4 years. I can't remember, something like that. So it was nice getting to know a lot of the photographers in the space, and
Mhm,
there are a lot of really talented people in the photo world in fly fishing. There's also just a ton of junk, and
mhm.
it's sometimes you sound like a pompous. Can I say ass?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're not governed. It's a podcast.
you know, I don't want to sound like a pompous ass, but like, you do it long enough, I feel like you have a different eye, even if it's small things. So like,
Yeah,
to me, like, I see one person and they're okay, and then there's a person next to them that are just leaps and bounds ahead of them, and you can tell
yeah.
they've done commercial work and editorial work and know what they're doing, and that's not always totally evident to most people, I don't think, which is, it's good and bad. It
Hmm.
makes our jobs as professional photographers a little harder, because it's, people are like, you're charging what to do what, why, I can get this from this person. It's like, you, like anything else, you get what you pay for.
You betcha. So let's talk about that. So you've evolved this into a business, an adventure, and it's done extremely well. You're traveling all over. What can I hire you for?
Whatever you want, man. If you I besides the outdoor world, I do a lot of other stuff. It's The photo world's tricky, because you get in your niche
Yeah.
and you're good at something, you're not necessarily good at something else. So,
All right. Well, what was your
you
most
know
recent shoot then? How's that sound?
oh man, super boring. Forgive me, Table Mountain Inn, if you are listening to this, but yeah, I work with, last weekend I had a 2-day shoot and basically shot the inside of a
Okay.
hotel, But 2 week I'm going on a shoot with Sims here in 2 weeks.
That's the stuff the listeners just love, and they're sitting there going, "I'm gonna buy a camera now. Sims is gonna hire me."
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean,
I just
that's not every day, but the last fun shoot I did a hosted trip. I've kind of been doing like one or two a year, where I'm dipping my toes in the hosted trip world, but kind of with a photography angle. So it's,
okay.
hey,
Well, tell us what it.
hey,
What's
let's
going on?
basically, hey, I'm the host on this trip. We're going, like, we did a trip to Christmas Island, month and a half, 2 months ago.
That's right.
And it's, part of the angle is that, hey, we can talk photography just casually. If you want more instruction, I'm happy to do that in the evenings or the mornings. Um, Not, again, pretty loosely based. I've been teaching a little at this thing called the School of Trout,
Hmm.
which was set up by my buddy Todd Tanner last year, where I think we had 10, 12, I don't know, I can't remember, 8 to 12 students that are there for a week. And he brings in kind of quote unquote experts in different fields.
Mm-hmm.
And, you teach, like I'll teach for, we'll have photo classes for part of the day, and then they'll go out and do entomology or casting. So
It's a week
yeah,
long, the school of trout?
it's a week long. It's up on the Henry's Fork in Idaho. We're doing it again this year. Some awesome teachers.
You know I'm gonna be like wanting to interview that on the podcast, just
Yeah.
so you know.
Yeah, I'm sure my buddy Todd would be ecstatic about that. It was a very
Such a
cool,
cool idea. Yeah,
it
it's a
was a
cool idea.
great experience to be a part of last year. It was really fun. Just some, top of the field people and really
Mm-hmm.
interested students. It was awesome.
I love that. No, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I don't know. I can't remember where this question started because I'm
No
rambling.
worries.
But
It's all good. You know what? I know where we're at. We were talking about hosted trips, and then we're gonna go back to
yeah.
Sims as well.
Yeah. So I'll shoot anything. I do a lot of commercial
Mm-hmm.
work. A lot, strangely enough, I still do a lot of editorial work. If it makes sense, it's gotten harder to do that work because there's just not very much money in
Mm-hmm.
it. But it is fun, and you get to do some pretty amazing trips. So it's still, if it's worth it, it's worth it. If it's not, it's hard to say no because it's always a fun trip.
So Sims, I want to clarify this because I need to picture this. Sims phones you up and says, "Tim, we need to hire you. We're gonna pay you. We're gonna fly you to this island. We're gonna get you to photograph in the downtime where you can fish all you want. Everything's covered, and then we're gonna jump on a
Uh,
plane and you're gonna come back and send us the photos when you're done on a USB."
Almost, if you're on a real commercial shoot, I don't even bring fishing gear.
It's just that busy.
It's that busy, and to me it's really unprofessional to shoot and try to fish. I mean, if someone explicitly says, "Hey, we're done today, you can fish," but my work style and ethos is just I overshoot and really want the client to be happy, so I wouldn't even think about bringing fishing gear on one of those shoots.
Well said. No, well said. I agree. I'm just picturing what I would
It's
do.
hard. I mean, trust me, I want to a lot of times, but it's just you can't. If you're going to do a good job, you can't do both. If I'm on like a
Mhm.
week long editorial shoot on like a float or something, yeah, I might fish here and there. But for the most part, I try to be professional and just shoot.
Cool. Awesome. I love it. What else? Where do you see your brand going? Where do you see the photography brand going 5 years from now, 10 years from now?
That's a good question. It's tough, as a person running two businesses, I get a little frustrated with myself sometimes about my personal brand and
Mhm.
photography that I can't devote enough time to marketing it properly. And, I think I fall into the trap where I look at social media or I look at Instagram and I'm like, oh man, I need to be out there more, putting myself out. But then I take a step back and realize I'm just doing what I can do, and I'm running two businesses, and I hope it continues. I might try to devote a little bit more time
Mhm.
to it
Mhm.
going forward. I don't know. It's a tough question. It's hard because it's a tough business, and you got to really put in weird hours and long days, and you have a family. It's tough, but I don't know. I hope it just grows commercially, and I hope I still get to do editorial work, and maybe I'll drop off a little angling trade
Mhm.
work and do more photography.
Well, I think to follow that up, I mean, hustling's hard, right?
It is hard.
You know what I mean? When you're hustling, it's hard, and no one ever said it was easy. So totally agree with you on that. Tim, I want to divert here. I want to ask you. So, what are like you talked about social media a few times in this year. So, what are some of the challenges or trends on social media, like that you're finding that in the fishing world that you're kind of like this? How do I say this politically? That really piss you off?
I'm not one to beat around the bush too much, man. I think that it's both good and bad. I think it can be really good for certain things. I think it's given people a voice who haven't had a voice, which is great for things like conservation and
Mhm.
um, getting more masses to things like that. On the other hand, the whole quote unquote influencer slash, you know, I'm a fly fishing pro thing kind of makes me want to vomit sometimes.
Mhm.
Hey, it's, I'll just be honest, it's taken a little bit of money out of my pocket as someone who's worked really hard and tried to be a pro on the reporting and journalism side and doing it. Maybe I'm naive and it's old school, but I just find that a lot of it is not very well done. People don't necessarily know what they're talking about, and it's a lot of like, look at me kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Again, I'm probably sounding like an old grump, but
Well, that is a trend, and it's quite common. I mean, I ask that question a lot, and I get the same, exactly the same response.
do
But
you?
yeah, we do on the show. Quite a bit of people actually agree to that, right? That and that's why I asked, as a photographer, with your $5,000 camera, or me with my iPhone. Do you know what I mean? Like with the grip and
Sure.
grin, right? Like, the grip and grin's getting 10,000 likes because
Right.
I have 30,000 followers that whether they're real or not, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, and all you're getting is a little heart out of it when it's like you go and do an editorial shoot. That's kind of where I wanted to focus on. Like, and you just solved it right there. Like, it's taking it hits your bottom line. Right. And it's
Yeah.
unfortunate that it's hitting your bottom line when you put 10 plus years into this craft of photography.
Yeah, and I get it.
Right.
I mean, I understand it from a business perspective. If you can get that quick hit from someone who's, a one hit wonder and it's free, well, yeah, it's kind of hard to say no, right, as a brand.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I like my Instagram feed. I have, a couple thousand, if that, followers. I've never bought any. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know how much of it's real. I hate like you're talking about grip and grins. I just had a client that was kind of grumpy because there weren't enough grip and grins, and I'm like, that's just not me. If you want that, that's fine, but that's not me. If you should have said something, and I just find it terribly boring after a
Hmm.
while.
So then what do you try and focus on when you shoot then? If you're not doing the gripping grins, which is great, right? Because again, anyone that steps out of the box, in my opinion, and steps away from the norm will be successful. Might not be right away, but if you take your own path, you're
I'd
going to be
like to think
successful.
so. I hope so.
Takes time.
It does take time. I've just always tried to tell a story.
Hmm.
It's more interesting to me. Kirk Deeter, my business
Yeah.
partner in a lot of this, he years ago he did a few books, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, about guides. He signed one to me and he said, "Hey, here's to many of our travels. It's not about the fish, but rather the people you meet and the things you see along the way." And I've kind of taken that to heart and always kind of thought that was true. I mean, I love fishing. It's
Yeah.
totally an addiction, right? But I have more fun just seeing new places and getting to meet people and hearing their stories. And I don't know. I think that's for me personally. I'm not saying that's everyone's cup of tea, but that's more important to me than the actual fish.
Yeah, the relationships we make, and for those that don't know, when you're in the fly fishing industry, there's some great relationships, and great relationships I've made along
Yeah,
the way. And I mean, Tim,
it's
you've got
a big family.
yeah, you've got way more many years in it than I do, and I'm a baby in this industry compared to someone like yourself. And it's just been
Me too.
phenomenal. The reception that I've got has been so welcoming and warming. It's great, right? And like,
Yeah,
I agree with you. It's well said. It's not about the fish always. It's about the relationships. And man, I've had opportunities to fish with people that I've never even met me, or we've talked on the over a microphone, miles away from each other. So it's really cool. So, you know, what
yeah.
what are
I,
some of the what are some of the challenges that you find within the industry on a flip side? What are some of the challenges that you're finding?
well, it's a small industry, so it's tough to eke out a real living. I mean, you got to really, people have
Yeah.
these ideas. Oh, I'm going to do this, and like I just kind of sit there and I'm like, no, you're not going to do that because no one's going to pay you to do that.
Yeah.
It's hard because like there's a lot of really talented, smart people
Hmm.
who are doing things on all sides, and there's just so much of the pie to go around in our industry that it's hard. Like you said, there's a lot of hustle and if you're making a living doing it, that's great. I mean, there is money in pockets for sure, but it's tough. I mean, the industry all in is like under $1 billion. It's just not big,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
It's crazy, isn't it?
compared. So that can be challenging. I mean, it's always a challenge on both the photo side and the ad side, trying to make it work. I mean, it's been working for a while, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I trust me, man. I'm sitting here and I know exactly what you're saying. So it's definitely a challenge. So I mean, to expand the industry is one of the greatest things, and it's again that's a common answer that I get from many people. I don't know if it's because I interview a lot of brands and they're like expand the industry, and I mean obviously more consumers, but what are some of the ways that you would like Angling Trade Magazine would see expanding the industry? Like, how would you guys picture going about doing something like that?
Well, I mean, for years we talked about, we were just stagnant, just totally stagnant, and or even dropping, And I think that's changing. That we finally are kind of getting out of the white old man
Yeah.
demographic, and there's more women, there's more kids, there's more minorities. I think people just really need to keep pushing that. There's for years too, and I think it's changing a lot, but there was just like a very nose in the air, snotty attitude about it. There's still a lot of that. So I think that needs to kind of go away. And it's a hard
Yeah.
thing to do. Like, just, I have a lot of friends that want to get into it, and they're, I try to make it as easy as possible. And I know what I'm doing to try to make it as easy as possible. And it's still not something you just pick up and go do day one and you're like good at it. So barriers to entry, it's inherently, I think, a little bit more difficult than other things, but that's also what makes it so beautiful in the end, is that, it's a really special thing once you figure it out.
True enough, Tim. It definitely is, and I do see with the recent surge of women taking to the sport. It's just been such a great uplifting boost for us, for sure. So, Tim, where do you get your energy from? I know you're a father. You're running around. You're traveling. You're hard to lock down. So, where do you get all this energy from?
I don't know. I've always
you could say Red Bull.
Decent, I go there occasionally. A lot of coffee. Yeah. I don't know. My wife gets mad at me because I've never been a person who just chills out. Like, she just wants me to sit on the couch occasionally and veg, which is very difficult for me to do. Or like, we go on vacation, I'm like, I don't know, just my personality. I think I can't sit still for very long. So it's been helpful in some regards, and then in other regards, it's, I get kind of drained sometimes and burnt out. So it cuts both ways.
No, crazy. I'm much the same as well.
You sound like it.
Yeah, a vacation for me is not like that. Actually, as soon as I got 3 more of these today, and then I'm gonna go camping, and I'm actually going camping off grid by myself. So it's kind of nice. No kids.
Nice.
I asked to pull one out of school. Wife said no. I'm like, I'm out of here. So it's great.
Good for you.
You know what? Hey, Tim, I know you're a busy guy. What do you got going on right now? What's like? I'm gonna let you go here. And what do you guys got going on? What are you working on?
Business wise, business wise. I just closed a magazine for Angling Trade, so we got our spring issue out, which always feels good. I got a couple of newsletters coming up. I'm working on some photo edits for folks today, and I've got phone meetings for the rest of the day. So, it's kind of like you.
So you will be busy, but with all that said, I want to make sure that we can anyone that wants to reach out to you and get a hold of either Angling Trade Magazine or Tim Romano for the for photography, where can they find you at, Tim?
Angling Trade, just anglingtrade.com online. My email is tim@anglingtrade.com. Both that and info@Tim Romano, all one word, ROMANO.com for the photo side of things. But yeah, pretty easy to find myself online. Instagram, the photo world is Tim Romano Photo. Yeah, that's really about it.
Awesome, Tim. You know what we're going to do is I'm going to put all that in the show notes. Make sure that's down there for everybody. And I want to thank you. I know you're a busy guy, but I definitely want to thank you for taking the time to talk to us today on the Fly Fishing Insider podcast. And I want to thank our guests as well.
Oh, well, thank you, Greg.
No worries, buddy. It's, you're just busy.